Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for another edition of Adventures in Careerland. Hello, everyone. I'm your host. I was going to say co-host because we're working with so many students in this program, but it's Adriano Magnifico back here, and I'm the career lead at the Riel Arts and Technology Center. I do everything related to career with students in this building, in the Arts and Technology Center. That's an applied learning and apprenticeship training space. Really cool space. It's for high school students. It's for post-secondary students, many international students, especially in the evening. And we have some very cool programs here. 13 applied learning programs. One of these cool programs is called the Broadcast Media Program, and I am the beneficiary of all its gems, skill sets, students, and possibilities, because we're sitting in the podcast studio center in the broadcast media classroom, and I'm working with some broadcast media students. I'm forever grateful for these wonderful students, and we change them every year. And we have a new batch of students working with us. So we have some people in the control room being producer. Phoenix, thanks for doing this. We have someone who's still ill, Geneva, but she will be back. Had her tonsils out. What a terrible thing. Had that out, and she'll be speaking up soon. And we have two wonderful co-hosts. That's where I get a little mixed up with the co-hosts. My friendly student co-host. And they're starting out this year. We've done a couple of them. And this is number 3. We're in season 6, of course. This is number 3, and this is number 64 in the giant continuum of all these stories. We call this Adventures in Careerland because we think career is an adventure. We think your life path is an adventure. We think it's a space where you've got to make a lot of decisions, and it's hard to see the future. So how you make the call is based on a lot of factors that kind of meander into your life. And we can't quite get it right, and sometimes we get it just right. We have a couple of students whom I believe are getting it right. All right, and I'm going to introduce you to Caden Seidler. How are you, Caden?
Hi there, I'm good. How are you?
All right, so Caden, you're in the broadcast media program.
Yeah.
What's been your day like so far?
Pretty good. I was expecting it to be a little colder, so it's good today. Still getting used to waking up after spring break. So
I like that. This lad's got the Indiana Jones voice, just quiet, laconic, says what he needs to. Maybe I went to see John Wick. Are you watching the John Wick movies?
I haven't seen the new one.
I saw John Wick 4. I was counting the body count. I'm one of these idiots who says, how many guys has Wick actually shot and killed in this? And about halfway through, he was up to about 100, but then you lose track because you're eating popcorn, you're having a drink, and you kind of forget. But I love the John Wick movies. They're awful. Awful in a good way, I think. And we have our other co-host, Caitlin Middlestat. How are you, Caitlin?
I'm good.
You're always good. You guys are good. So what have you been up to, Caitlin? We just came off spring break, and we're about to have a blizzard. What's going on in your brain?
Sadness. I don't want more snow.
You know what? I'm just
spring.
Again, I look at some of these horrific weather events in the United States. Mm-hmm. Entire small towns being destroyed. I'll take the snow any day. You just need a good pair of snow tires.
That's
and
true.
you're in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, we take our blessings where we can. I think we're getting a little snow tomorrow. And of course, we're getting the snow. I want to ask you a couple of questions. We're getting snow. For me, when I'm an old English teacher, career development person, but an old English teacher. Whenever it was a snowfall like this, I get my students to write poetry. So I think it's time tomorrow. I think we sit down, we write a little poetry. What do you say?
Sure.
Oh yes, look at these guys. I hope we don't run into Magnifico tomorrow. Thanks for nothing. It's very good. And of course, I'm all about the English experience. I was connected to university and deeper and more academic thinking because I had a great English teacher in high school, Mrs. Axworthy, at Nelson McIntyre Collegiate, way back in the 20s. And she really turned me on to literature. I want to ask you guys, what do you think? How was English class in your life? You're a high school student. You're out of it. Caitlin, you're out of it. or Caitlin. Caden, you're out of it. Caitlin, you're still kind of in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Caden, how has been your English class experience? Are you turned on to English?
No. I never had trouble, but I always found it pretty. Yeah. I like writing more now, but I always used to find it a little boring. But no, I mean,
Do you like to read? Do you like to read?
Read? I don't read a lot, but I do like it. But I haven't read a book probably in about a year, so it's not.
How inspiring!
Yeah,
Very good. Caitlin, you got to save us here.
I love English class.
Way to go,
I do.
Caitlin.
It's
Why?
probably my favorite.
Why?
I enjoy writing. I actually like writing essays. Whenever they assign an essay, I'm like, yay. I don't like poetry though.
Why? It's the great.
It's too like. I don't know.
There's nothing more powerful.
Feels like a stretch.
There's nothing with. I like that idea. I love what you said. It's a stretch. It is a stretch because poems resonate with meaning.
Yeah.
There's always a residual mystery to a poem. That's what I love about it. Where you're trying to write in an expository way, you're saying exactly what you mean, you're being as blunt as you can.
Yeah.
Poetry doesn't do that. Poetry wants you to go off, like Emily Dickinson said, a book is like a frigate. Take you off on a journey somewhere. A frigate's a boat, everybody, okay? It takes you off on a journey. All right, so that's pretty cool. So English, I'm glad English, and now you're in the broadcast media, you have to write things. You're a copywriter here, so how do you feel about that?
I'm getting better, and I like it more than I used to because it's a little more interesting. So.
All right.
Yeah.
And you bring your English skills from your classes in school to this program?
Yeah, I think so.
How
it
so?
helps.
How so?
When we write like scripts for the radio and stuff,
Of course.
I feel like it helps a bit.
Of course. And you have to understand all that academic programming is beating you into a reader and a thinker and a speaker and a presenter.
Yeah.
And I'm the beneficiary of it right now. We're going to continue to hone your skills here. So, I love it. We have kind of English students here. And for me, it was a massive inspiration. I asked that question because we have a special guest today. This is our first outside guest. We've been interviewing you two, and while it's been interesting, now it's really going to get interesting, okay? We have a special guest today who is a former student of mine from the 80s. That's a long time ago. You guys weren't even a glint in somebody's eye. You weren't even a possibility. But now, we have a special guest. And we have someone who is in your industry, in your chosen educational path. She's been doing it for a while, and she's got a lot of insight. And I just think she's a real special person. It's always been my privilege to know her. This is Karen Rocznik, and she is our guest today. And she is working currently with the Daily Blast Live as a senior producer in Denver, Colorado. But right now she's in Ottawa. So Karen, how are you?
Hey everyone, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, what a pleasure to have you on. And you're in Ottawa, but you're normally in Denver. So what are you doing in Ottawa?
Well, I'm visiting my sister and her family. Yeah, she's got 2 kids. I've got a niece and a nephew here in Ottawa, and my brother-in-law, Pete, my sister, Andy. So yeah, we're all hunkering down in Ottawa.
Now, you were one of those kids in school. I remember you in my class way back when at St. Boniface Diocesan High School. We always called it the Die High, and we chatted yesterday. You always thought, you thought that was an odd thing to call it, but in those days we just called it the Die High. And I think it had something to do with its religious affiliation. I don't know. The Die High, or just what happened to students when they went there. I don't know why we called it that. Just a quick expression for it. But you were an English student. I remember you sitting in the front row. What I remember immediately about you, Karen, is you sat in the front row right in front of me. So were you one of those students when you were in grade 9, 10, 11, 12 who liked to sit in the front row?
No.
You were right there. Do you remember you sat in the front row of my class?
I don't.
I remember it exactly. You're right in front of me.
I don't remember that. I do remember that I was a little bit of a class clown. I don't know if you remember that, but I tried to, kind of one-up the teacher a lot. I always thought I sat in the back, but maybe that was other classes.
No,
I really liked English, and I liked your classes. They were always fun, we always had to write so much poetry on snow days. I love that.
I know, eh? Like that's where. Now, how did you get turned on to English? Why did you get turned on to English though? Like some people have a special, I don't know, kind of little connection to it.
Kaden, I'm with you. I'm not a big reader. That was probably my least favorite part was, having to, pour through a book. But once I got into it, I got transported into different worlds, and I always liked kind of taking a novel and making it, we would reenact things. We did a lot of drama in your class, I remember, like presentations. So I liked that aspect, which is why I think I went into broadcast media, because I like telling stories. But I liked the idea of it, just, learning about different places, different people, different ways of thinking. So it was always a fun class for me.
Well, you left the diocesan high school and then you went to Miles Mac about halfway through, and you completed Miles McIntyre. That's in East Kildonan. I taught at River East Collegiate for a lot of years. They were a big rival in those days. In fact, you were probably
yes.
I probably passed you in the hallways because I used to be the basketball coach at River, one of the basketball coaches at River East. We played at Miles Mac. You might have been in the crowd there. It might have been because that was back in the day there.
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day. And you left that and you made a call. It's interesting. You talked to me about your mom yesterday, and she is an American, you said.
Yes.
So was that interesting, having an American mom? What kind of, was it different than other parents, or it was just parents of parent?
Well, parents are parent, but my mom was a very proud American. She was born and raised in the Bronx in New York City.
Whoa.
And yeah, she's from the Bronx. And met my dad because she went to school in Canada and then ended up at the University of Manitoba. And she met my dad on a ski trip in Banff, of all things. And so ended up becoming a Winnipegger. But growing up with a mom who's such a proud American, like we had American flags in the house, we celebrated the 4th of July. My mom does 2 Thanksgivings, the Canadian Thanksgiving in October and then American Thanksgiving in November. So I always had a sense of like, the United States being home for my mom, and just that proud sense of being American. Now growing up though, I was a little more critical of some of the United States's policies or just presidents, and my mom would be like, don't you be talking about that, she would kind of scold me. And I'd be like, come on, America's all about independent thinking, and you can, but she didn't like anybody kind of, saying anything bad about her hometown. It's like Winnipeg. Like people from Winnipeg can criticize Winnipeg, but if you're from outside of Winnipeg and you are dissing my city,
that's right. Yeah. That's right. And a lot of people leave, and it's funny. A lot of people leave to Vancouver, to Calgary. We lose them to Toronto. We lose a lot of talent all the time. Winnipeg is a net migration of some of our middle classes. That's a deficit migration. We lose some of our best middle class people to these other centers simply because we can't offer some of those job opportunities, right? I mean, you've been in that boat where you've worked in this city, and you've been in some of the big cities. What are job opportunities like in Winnipeg compared to the other spaces you've been into?
I think there's a lot of opportunity in Winnipeg, especially in broadcast. A lot of people from other cities come to Winnipeg because it's kind of that middle market. But there's so much opportunity here. A lot of people come to Winnipeg and stay. I was one of those people that left, but then I came back to my hometown and got a job with CBC radio and television. And I ended up staying for 8 years because I actually liked reporting here. I actually liked the people, and I got sucked back into Winnipeg, and it's, cold. It's a cold city with a warm heart.
Oh,
yeah.
You should be writing Hallmark cards or something. Warm city with a cold city with a warm heart.
With a warm heart.
Yeah, my mom would have expressions like that. Cold hands, warm heart, or something. I say, where'd you get that, Mom? I don't know. She'd have expressions like that all the time. So you haven't spent time in Winnipeg. You've had a bit of what I liked about your story. We chatted yesterday. was this meandering kind of jumbled life path you've had. You started out going to the University of Winnipeg, right? And
Yeah.
and pursuing a degree in English. Did you have any idea you'd be in a broadcast media context when you left high school?
Yes.
So you were thinking that way all the time. So how did high school prepare you for that? Or was it the English piece and the writing and the communication pieces involved in it?
No, I think it was my love of performing in a way, even though I wasn't like a theater person. I always loved getting up in front of a class and doing a Shakespeare soliloquy, or like, doing something fun, and reenacting Saturday Night Live skits and making them relate to Shakespeare. Like, it was always, that was my joy. And so I always kind of knew I'm not really a newspaper magazine person. I'm probably more of a broadcast journalist. So yeah, I mean, that's sort of the rough way it prepared me. But I always had it in my head that I wanted to be on TV or be in be on the radio.
Yes.
So
Yes. Oh, that's pretty cool. And it was more limited in those days. Today you can be almost anything in this industry.
you can do it from your basement, like,
Yes.
and you do, like a lot of people during the pandemic were doing podcasts, recording videos, and doing, broadcast television, anchoring even from their homes. So
Well, we saw that the late night shows, right? Colbert and
yeah,
Fallon.
anybody can do this now.
Yeah, Kimmel. They were all doing it from their houses, from their basements, or they'd walk into the studio. There'd be one guy. It was funny how they'd all dress too. They dressed like they were all disheveled. Their hair was long, so no one
don't
could
even
give
have
you
to
a
look good.
haircut. Like I never understood this about the whole COVID thing. I could never get a haircut, or I could never dress normally again. I never understood that about COVID. Why can't you? I don't get it. Anyway, so hey, you're trying UW. You're going into English class though. Did you ever look around? You want to be an English major. Did you ever look around and think, why didn't you go to some of the broadcast media specialty spaces in Winnipeg?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to? I want to do English.
Yeah, and there's a lot of options. Like in Winnipeg, you can go to Red River Community College, do their Cree-Com program, which is excellent. And a lot of people that I worked with at CBC, CTV went to that program. I also loved English. I wanted a good foundation. And you were asking Caitlin and Caden, like, about, how it prepares you. Like, when you're writing a script for a newscast, there has to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. There should be anyway. Or if you're writing a longer form piece, like for a documentary or just a current affairs piece, always beginning, middle, and end. And that's what essay writing taught me in university. Like when I was doing all my English courses and I had to write these essays, or even in any class where you have to formulate an argument and then defend it and then come to a conclusion. That's what you do in broadcast writing. So it's not, sometimes it's oversimplified and you're writing like 20 seconds of copy, but for the large part, like when I wrote documentaries, I wrote long form, pieces for radio and television, and you always have to have that kind of brain where you're making decisions and you're formulating an argument. So that's what my English degree taught me, and I think it transferred well into journalism, and so that's why I went that route.
Hey, and that's an important comment, because some people think sometimes when you go get an arts degree that it's kind of a useless degree to get. And I've never felt that way. I just felt like it was a space where you are really getting in touch with communicative abilities and skills and sensibilities in you, and with other people, because those arts want you to collaborate, to think together, to come up with ideas, to problem solve all the time. And I've always thought those with that degree simply don't know how to leverage it properly when they feel like it hasn't been worthwhile. And I don't think the universities do a great job of helping you communicate how to leverage those degrees into great jobs.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. There's not a lot of guidance when I was going to university on how you can funnel this degree, or what these skills can transfer into, what kind of careers or jobs. So that, I don't know if that's changed, but
Well, I think it's slowly. I think there's more internships and more co-ops and more more project-based learning is certainly in high school, but universities are slowly getting it, but there's still that academic piece where students go into, I was talking to a student who joined this program here last week and said, how's it going here? He's in the electrical program, wants to be an electrician. And he went, hey, what's the big difference? He goes, well, in the other class back at school, the teacher talks and I take notes. Here, we take some notes and we go apply the notes immediately in a space with our hands. And he goes, I really like this. I'm beginning to understand that the knowledge, when a teacher doesn't apply that knowledge and you're just simply consuming it, that's not the kind of learner I am. I think there's a lot of learners out there like that.
Yeah. Can I ask a question to your students?
Yes.
I wanted to know, Kaden and Caitlin, why you guys are interested in broadcast media and what aspect of it do you guys like?
I can go first. I like a lot of movies, YouTube, stuff like that. I mean, I'd say seeing how things get filmed and how it gets turned into an actual film, let's say like on a set, like all that stuff, how it's actually done is pretty cool. I never used to be too comfortable talking or being on camera, stuff like that, but now being in this class has helped and it's actually pretty fun. And yeah, I just didn't really, kind of was all over the place of what I wanted to get into in this course, but it's all pretty down my alley, so yeah.
And
That's cool.
I've kind of always been into it. I've always been into like video editing or photography, and I really love movies, so I kind of wanted to like learn how to film to hopefully maybe do that one day. And I just wanted to learn more about like video editing and, you know, make my skills a little bit better. So I joined broadcast media.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is so cool. And like with broadcast now, most reporters now carry their own cameras, do their own editing. And I have friends that started out as videographers working for local news and now work on film sets here in Winnipeg, or where you guys are in Winnipeg. So there's definitely a transfer into film too. If you start in broadcast, you can get into filmmaking. There's a big industry in Manitoba, so that's great, you guys. It seems like you guys have a better head on your shoulders than I did when I was in high school.
Well, and I think in this day and age, you weren't as exposed to these kinds of programs in school, right? Like you were told university was the way to go, and it was the only way to get a good paying job, right? I think that's shifting, and I think that's even shifting in the U.S. What's your feeling? The U.S. Is often a little ahead of Canada usually when it comes to educational pieces and trends that seem to move. What are the trends that way in the U.S.? Are they moving toward more applied learning, more apprenticeship learning? Or are they still, because you got to pay a lot to go to, what does it cost? 80 grand to go to Notre Dame for a year? Are you people crazy down there?
Oh, it's more than that.
It's crazy.
It's like $25,000 to go to an Ivy League school for a year.
Oh, it's more than that. I'm talking 80 grand a year at Notre Dame.
Oh, 80 grand a year, yes.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's ridiculous. Like, why would anyone?
Minimum, like a state school would be 25.
Yes.
Because that's what my boyfriend's niece is going to a state school in California, and there is $25,000.
That's crazy. You're 100 grand in
That's
debt.
a small state school.
Yes.
A year. So American too. So I think people have to like really understand. I don't think people just go to university just to find themselves unless their parents are so rich that they can just do that. I think you kind of have to go in with a plan. And I think a lot of people, because of the student debt problem, because it's so expensive, are looking at different pathways to education. I mean, I was kind of half joking when I said skip school and just start a podcast in your basement and make a lot of money. Some people are doing that. Like, I'm not saying that's the plan or you should listen to me, but it's just a lot of people are kind of not thinking that university is going to solve all their problems. If they're paying 80 grand a year, it's going to just create more. So
yes.
Yeah, I think there is a shift. And I think tech jobs, we've kind of seen a lot of bust with Google and Facebook. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm just lucky to be employed right now. So I'm glad that, knock on wood, it keeps up. But it's kind of a volatile market out there. I wouldn't even know where to begin if I was a student in the US, if I was like thinking of going to university, you'd really have to think hard about what you can afford, what you want to do. Is it going to be worth it? Is it going to pay off in the end? And that's what a lot of people think about in the US. Is like, what's my return on investment with university? So yeah, I don't know if that answered anything, but
Oh, it answered everything. Everything all over. Everything everywhere at once.
everything everywhere all at
everywhere
once. That's how
I watched that movie. Some people don't like it. I love that movie. I thought it was crazy.
Oh, it was great. It took me a while to get into it.
I know. You almost have to watch it twice and
Yeah.
stop at some point and
And
go,
then
ay, ay, ay.
You kind of have to submit to the what do you call it? The multiverse.
The multiverse, the surreal aspects of everything that are just kind of swirling around. It's amazing. The multiverse, that's what it is. I think the multiverse may destroy movies one day, that we have to slow down in the multiverse. I'm an old guy and I can't take it all in that fast.
I know.
Even Spider-Man was killing me. I loved it. But all three Spider-Man on the same screen at the same time? Great.
That
But I
was
thought, oh, come on,
That was
guys.
great. Just to submit to the multiverse. Just
Submit. Are you guys ready for the multiverse? Caden, are you multiverse?
I think so. I think I'm ready.
I think I'm ready. I like that. I like it. Yeah, I'm ready for it. Are you ready for the multiverse, Caitlin?
No.
No. Caitlin's got the great voice. It's this combination of I'm sad and happy at the same time. I love her voice. It's fantastic. And I'm telling you, you are box office. Both of you guys. You can have your own pod show. Get rid of Magnifico, have your own pod show. You know, Indiana Jones and Puppy Dog here. This is fantastic. Anyway, hey, so you got your English degree, right?
yeah.
Yes, University of Winnipeg.
St. Francis Xavier University is where I graduated from.
But you
in
started at
Antigonish,
UW,
Nova
right?
Scotia.
Right, and then you went, and your mom said, "Why don't you try that out?" Did you have some relatives? Who had the relatives in Cape Breton?
So I did. My mom's family is from Cape Breton. So my grandparents are from Cape Breton and cousins. So, and we have a cottage out there. So I've been going there since I was a kid and was very familiar with like the landscape of Nova Scotia. So I got out of Winnipeg and went to St. FX for 3 years.
St. FX, St. Francis Xavier. No.
Yeah. So yeah, I did that. So that's where I graduated from.
Yeah, you graduated from there, but then you got your English degree, right? So
Yeah.
you're well versed in Milton, Robert Frost,
Oh,
Dickens,
all of it.
Chaucer,
Yeah.
Shakespeare. I know itself be true, and it was follow as the
all
night
the
the
Bronte
day.
sisters, and I did Romanticism. I did a lot of I did American literature. I did the Romantics. I did Shelley and Keats and all that.
I love those guys.
I did all I needed the basis. You got to get the basis of all the poets and all that, and then
Yes.
you can.
And then it's weird though when you deep dive into education to something like Romanticism or the Romantic poets, for example, you get to know them so well. It's almost like I took the walks. I went to school in Britain for a bit and took the Wordsworth walks in the Lake District, and
Nice.
they're spectacular. If you've never done that, Karen, oh my gosh, it was spectacular. And it's the pastel skies and everything Wordsworth wrote about just kind of turned me on to this poet, and I couldn't believe it. You'd sit in his space. Yeah, he sat here before. I don't know how they knew that. Or this is the bed he slept in. I went at Riel Mount down there, and it's this tourist center now. But just amazing stuff. Really cool. But that's a deep dive, and of course, I love what Karen took the deep dive into literature. Is what I'm saying. Like really getting to know something inside out. But then had to do the journalism thing and went to
Yeah, I had to resurface and go into. I went into journalism at University of King's College. It's a 1 year, really comprehensive, hands-on program, which I loved.
So was it like
there was,
Pre-Com, or what would be the difference? Why would you choose that over Pre-Com in
it
Winnipeg?
was exactly like Pre-Com, and in a scale. I mean, I think Pre-Com now is just a lot more, and I think a lot like your program is just a lot more technologically advanced. But we did a radio show, we did a TV show, we put out an online magazine, newspaper, we did an actual community newspaper. So we were in the trenches. Like our classes were pretty much go out and find stories and then come back, write them, edit them, cut them, shoot them, and broadcast them. So that's what I did. It was an intensive, I think it was like 9 or 10 month program. So it was full on. It was, yeah, but it was great because I did everything. I did everything from stand-up TV, broadcasting to writing newspapers, and yeah.
So totally hands-on. Program's totally hands-on. It's applying
Yeah.
your knowledge, and you're using all that English skill. Milton
Yeah.
came in handy. Shakespeare came in
Milton was
handy.
in my brain every day.
Do you know who Milton was? I don't think you guys want to know. Don't
No.
tell me you had to read Finnegan's Wake. James
Oh,
Joyce.
yes.
Do you remember this?
I had to read Ulysses.
Well, Ulysses, at least you could kind of half understand. It's that Finnegan's Wake that killed me. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm still having nightmares on that book. Okay. Anyway, good stuff, James Joyce. Hey, so now you come back from, you're in Nova Scotia in Halifax at St. And you've got the ring. You said, where's that ring? Show us the ring.
Can you see the ring?
Look at that.
my
Can you guys
X-ray.
see the ring? We're in a bit of a video here for these guys. It's the ring. You get a special ring, just like Professor X from the X-Men.
Yep.
Are you guys with
Exactly.
me? Okay, so she is, I'm not going to say Karen's a mutant, but maybe her mindset has that mutational quality where she sees beyond, deeper,
Probably.
thicker. She's telepathic like Professor X. Anyway, Saint X gives you that. And different, when you connect to some of these faculties, ooh, that's high school. Okay. When you connect to different faculties sometime, my son was an engineer and he had to get this special ring. I don't know if the engineering ring for mechanical engineers or something. It was,
Yep. I know the ring. Yep.
it was almost a ceremony shrouded in secrecy. I thought, what is this? I really thought it was kind of weird, but kind of cool. So you got your X ring. That's kind of cool. Now, what do you do when you leave St. Francis Xavier?
Well, I did the King. So I did St. Francis and then King's,
King's,
the year
right.
after. So that takes me to now I'm in my 5th year of education. So after I graduated King's, I went to Calgary. Yeah.
And what did you do in Calgary? Is that the CBC piece?
It took me a while, but I got a job writing for this career, kind of your area. I did like a youth employment magazine. It was an online magazine. This is back in the dark ages of online journalism. But I wrote about different careers and made it like for young people. So like if you're getting into this career, this is what you do, this is where you go. And I talked to people in different careers. So I did that for a year, and then I found my way to CBC radio. And it was I was working at the YMCA on the side.
Why? What were you doing at the Y?
Yeah, this is a weird story. Just bear with me. I got some like shifts at CBC, but was still working at the Y and this online magazine. Like I was doing all the jobs. And the head, like news director for CBC was a member of the Y. So she saw me working at the Y and was like, hey, didn't you work for us like a week ago? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, you know what? We really liked you. You should come back. And I was like, really? And they're like, yeah, I think we have some shifts opening. So I got in with CBC because I worked at the Y. So you never know. No job is too small. I'm just
Well, what were you doing at the Y? Were you doing swim classes or something? What were you doing?
saying. No, I was working behind the front desk.
Oh, your reception.
Yeah.
So half.
I was like a key and locker girl. I basically,
The key
but I was doing
locker
that
girl.
on weekends as well. Because the thing is,
Hey, turn that towel in. Hey, where are you going with that towel?
Hey, like I said, no job is too small. So yeah, I did that. I was working at this online magazine, also during the Y, and then I got in with CBC. I don't know how I got that. I think initially I just sort of met with somebody and they put me to work and said, okay, here's write some copy. But anyway, I got in there and then I got contracts with CBC, television and radio. And then I got a contract to work up in Whitehorse for a year. So I went from CBC Calgary to CBC Whitehorse and did that. And then I ended up bouncing back to Winnipeg.
Well, what did you love about Whitehorse? People go there and they either stay there or got to get out of there.
Right. It was great. I mean, the thing about Whitehorse is that it's such a small place, it's this community, but there's so much going on. There were this Rendezvous Festival, it's just sort of like this can Old West festival. Like they actually go around. There was like a what do you call it, like a policeman, and he would put people in jail, like just randomly. You could just be thrown in jail for whatever. They'd have silly rules, and they'd have the can girls dancing in the saloon. It was wild. So they had this rendezvous festival. I don't know. I just did a lot. I played women's hockey out there. I went to Dawson City and worked up there. That's like north of Whitehorse, and they have an amazing musical festival up there, and they have, I don't know, it's just it's such an interesting place. I would highly recommend going.
Now, did the job just run out, or was it time to go?
It was time to go because my contract ended, and they said, oh, okay, well, we don't have money to keep you on. And it was kind of, that's how CBC operates. Sort of, if they keep you on too long, they have to hire you and make you permanent. So they rather
and give
just
you
funnel
benefits
people through.
And give you a health plan or something.
Yeah, and actually give you benefits and a living wage. So
And
no,
a
they don't want to do
living
that.
wage. Are you saying the CBC, a crown corporation, doesn't give you a living wage?
It was fine. It was fine.
It was fine. I get
the
it.
CBC, but
Well, you're kind of subcontracted, right? So.
yeah. So I was a contract worker, and then that ended. So then I ended up getting another contract in Winnipeg, which brought me home. So it was fine, and got to work back in Winnipeg and do radio and TV. So
You also went to Bangkok, you told me.
then after Winnipeg, yeah, I went to Bangkok. I just decided, okay, I'm done with Winnipeg. So my friend was in Australia, so she invited me to come to Australia, and then we ended up going to Thailand together, and I just stayed. I stayed for 5 years. So
5 years. You must have loved it in there. What? Did you love it in Thailand?
I did. Yeah, it was again such an experience, so different than anything I'd ever experienced in my life. Like, it's just a crazy city. But I actually worked at a school called LRT Law, and LRT Law is actually loosely affiliated with the University of Manitoba. So there's this guy here in Winnipeg who joined forces with this schoolmaster in Thailand and created a bilingual program based on the bilingual curriculum in Manitoba, if that makes any sense. Anyway, there was a lot of Winnipeg teachers at the school, so I got in just through word of mouth from somebody in Winnipeg, and I worked there for a year, and then I worked at a couple of other schools, and then I eventually got hired by the Bangkok Post newspaper because I was teaching in Thailand. It was a very different experience. It's kind of like transporting yourself back in time to 1950. Like, the women had to wear uniforms and the men didn't. It was a very strict, kind of system. So I was a little bit beaten down by that, and I just wanted to go back into journalism.
A bit beaten down by that.
Beaten down by the.
Do you still have your uniform? Do you still have your uniform?
Oh my goodness! I think I burned it.
I turned the uniform.
And the thing is, Thailand is so hot. It was like 100 degrees on average.
Yes.
Fahrenheit, but like 40 degrees
yeah, 35,
Celsius.
40 degrees, yeah.
Yeah, and they would make us wear polyester. I thought that was just cruel.
Well, so now you get what a professional baseball player must endure for his millions of dollars. Stretch knit polyester slacks. My mom would call them slacks. Look at the slacks on that guy. Anyway.
You had to wear polyester slacks or skirts. Ugh.
Okay. So now, so you leave Thailand at some point here. This sounds like fun, though. Like, what an adventure you're on. And this is when you come back to Winnipeg. And isn't this where, I saw you on television. That's where I reconnected with you. I thought, is that Karen Rocznik on TV, on CTV? Doing a news report or something, and then you started doing investigative kinds of little things. You'd start looking into the despicable little business dealings that some companies were engaging. What was, like, you came back here, you came back to CBC, or did you immediately come to CTV?
I went to CBC because that's where I had my connections.
Yeah. And
I had just sort of landed back in Thailand. My grandmother was getting on. She was 102 at the time.
Wow.
And I felt this draw to go back and be with my grandma. So she lived to be 104. And
what an adventure she had. Right? What an adventure that must have been. 104 years.
I know, but I actually interviewed her on CBC. So I got back and worked at CBC for a bit. And my grandma's 104th birthday, we did a story. I pitched my grandma as a story because there was a study that came out about how people are living longer. And I said, well, we could do this study, but then talk to my grandma. And I interviewed my grandma on her 104th birthday. And you know what she said? I asked her, Grandma, what have you seen in 104 years? And without missing a beat, Mary Campbell said, the beginning of everything.
No way.
Just digest that for a minute.
Well, that's the movie. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
All at Once.
She saw it. What a great line, the beginning of everything. And she has seen it, right? She was in that century where everything...
Like the television. I mean, besides the wheel, I don't know what else. I mean, she was born in 1904. I mean, think of all the things, like everything from the television to the internet to, you know, all the advances, all the wars that she's lived through. So, and she also lived, because my mom was born in the U.S., but she was from Canada. So she also worked on both sides of the border as a school teacher. So she's seen a lot.
That must have been magic for you, though, to interview your grandma.
It was, and she died on Easter Sunday, only like maybe a couple months later.
Oh my gosh. How special was that then? How special was that?
So we got to have that moment together, and it was.
And she's totally in her brain, totally intact, interviewing smart.
Yeah, her facility, like her sight, she couldn't see. Her hearing wasn't great, but she still knew who I was. You know, she was slowing down, but she was sharp right to the end.
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you're on CTV doing the interview. What was you're doing some of those investigative things, and you were in front of the camera. So you were physically in front of the camera a lot. You like that?
Yeah, I did. I didn't mind it. I liked doing that. So I did a consumer watch segment. So like you're saying, I'd go after shady businesses or I'd take them down, expose it all on CTV. So I would, but I didn't mind it. It wasn't necessarily my most favorite thing. I always had a little bit of stage fright. So I always got a little bit of nerves before I go on camera. Of course. It depends. Yeah, it depended on what I was doing. I liked being live in the scene. I didn't like being in a studio, but I definitely liked being live out and about talking to people. I thought that was fun for me.
So you like to be in Puxatawny with the groundhog or something, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
On the field talking about groundhogs.
That's right. That's awesome. So part of this is, I like that. I mean, your life is taking all these little twists and turns constantly, right? And of course, you mentioned to me, I won't go into heavy detail about this, but you mentioned that, of course, you met a boy, and which is all, the downfall of every woman, okay, is meeting a guy, and then the guy dragging you off to another port of call. And so when you get there, eventually you get there, you don't have to go into detail about what happened, but it's fun. You followed this gentleman to a space because you were looking in a space on vacation almost, right? In Denver?
Yeah.
In Colorado?
Yeah, I was in California. So I was in Santa Monica.
Oh, right, okay.
LA. I was basically in LA because I had dual citizenship and was thinking, well, where can I go that it's warm and, not Winnipeg? And LA, of course. Everyone wants to go to LA.
Don't leave, you two. Don't leave.
I parked myself
Hang out as
LA
long as you can. Don't leave.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So I just decided LA was the place. I'd been there a couple of times visiting a friend and just thought, okay, I'll park myself here for 2 weeks, and happened to meet my now boyfriend on a date in Santa Monica, and we hit it off, and lo and behold, all of a sudden I'm now moving to LA. Like, it only took about 4 months, but you know what happened? There was a snowstorm in April. It was a massive snowstorm. This was 8 years ago.
In LA?
And I thought, that's my sign. I need to get out of Winnipeg.
In LA, you had the snowstorm?
No, in Winnipeg.
In Winnipeg, of course, yeah. Although, didn't California get some big snow the other month?
It did. It was like snowing and raining and crazy weather.
Okay.
So
you never know. I
but
wasn't
I'm
up to
not
lunch.
there anymore. So
Okay.
I ended up, I ended up moving to LA, getting some work I worked a lot of places. I did a lot of
So
like
you've
social
had to
media.
sell yourself. You've had to sell yourself constantly.
Yeah.
How important is that to these two young co-hosts here, sitting here relaxing? They're sitting in the chair. They're just relaxing, headphones on. How important is it to sell yourself and to learn how to do that?
Oh, it's huge. I had to really get schooled on resume writing because I wanted to put everything in the kitchen sink of my experience on a piece of paper, and these resume, consultants were like, no, you have to almost tailor your resume to the job, which means sometimes creating different resumes for every position you're applying to make them, targeted. And she's like, we don't care about your experience from 15 years ago. And I'm like, why? But they're like, no, it's not relevant. And it also makes you seem like a dinosaur. So you have to like trick them into thinking that you're fresh, young, and you have all the skills, and only the skills that's really required for the job. So the easiest way to do that is look at a job, what do you call it? What their
profile.
requirements are.
Yeah, the job profile.
The job profile, and just write to that. So if they say, social media experience, you write in your thing, social media experience, or this is the kinds of social media experience I have. Like, you would just zone in on what they're looking for. And because a lot of times now, when you're applying for a job, it's not even a person scanning your resume, it's a computer.
I like it.
Through. And then if all the keywords come up that match the job description, you're in.
Well, and I want to tell you the impact of your statements. These two pulled out their notebooks when you were talking on that one. So very good. Karen, look at the impact you've had on two people right here. You woke them up. I like that.
Okay. that is the key. It's almost like trickery in a way, but
it is. I like that you said that. It is a game, isn't it? It's a bit of a game, isn't it?
It is a game. It is a game. It's not about, I'm the best person, and if you don't have the skills, find a way to acquire those skills. Even if it means volunteering or managing your little brother's social media account for a week, like find a way to get yourself in well-versed in skills that maybe you're not comfortable with. I had to do that with social media. I had to become a social media manager. I had done a lot of social media work through broadcast. So I was tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking and all that stuff. But then I had to learn about all these other programs. Now it's TikTok and, all Twitch. And so you just have to like dive in, immerse yourself, get good. And you guys, younger people now, social media is what they're born with, like smartphones, right? in their hands. So it was,
So you're living in Denver. That's great advice, by the way. I'll be sharing that with the rest of the broadcast media students, and I'll tell them to listen to this podcast. If for no other reason than to learn how to get a good resume in shape. But lots of neat things you're saying. So when you go on the vacation to Denver, you fall in love with the place. Your significant other finds a job fairly quickly, right?
Yes,
in his
3 months,
space,
found
yes.
a job.
And then you have to look around, and you told me you worked for, was that like one of those shopping channels you worked for?
Slightly. It looks like a daytime talk show. And it was called Colorado and Company. And you sit down and there's guests that come on, but they're all selling something. So it's a pay to play is what they call it in the US, or it's basically like a sales show, but it's not direct. Like it is a little bit, but it's set up like a talk show.
Yes.
And so I was hired to be their fill-in host and correspondent, which meant I did a lot of live stuff, and I'd go out to so if there was a community festival going on, I would go out to that, or I would go out sometimes I'd go to a business, and do a live from their business and talk about what they're selling and here's their product. So that's what I did.
Well, that's pretty cool, because it also connected you to, you said down the hallway was the Party Blast
Daily
Live.
Blast Live.
what's it called? The Party Blast.
Daily Blast
I
Live.
don't know. That was the Freudian slip. That was a
We
Freudian
don't love
slip.
the name. It came up in a focus group, and we're stuck with it. But yeah, Daily Blast Live is a national talk show. Again,
And
like
I came
a panel
upon it.
show.
It's crazy because just before I talked to you, the week before, I clicked on it on television. I thought, what is this? In the Minnesota Care space there, right?
Yeah.
Care 11. And I couldn't believe how cool this little show was. I thought, here's a little gem of a show. And you had 5 people on. It was like The View kind of thing, right?
Exactly.
So what is that like? So now you're doing a version of The View.
Now I'm doing a version of The View, and we're on like 5 days a week, and we do 3 shows live in our studio, and I'm a senior producer, so I basically come up with all the content, so all the things that they're saying, come up with those stories. I write the script, so what you see in their teleprompter, what they read is my words I've typed out for them. Then we have to put video together. We have to sometimes come up with graphics, and we have to clear. So anything we get from social media or from YouTube, we have to clear through our legal department. So
Yes.
we can't just take things off the internet and throw it up on TV.
Yeah, maybe-
Everything has to be vetted and cleared by a legal team, and they give us the okay, or sometimes they say, no, you can't. And sometimes we have to purchase things like photos and things like that. So it's a big game. That's the majority of my time is managing that. And then once it's cleared, we have associate producers that edit it all on Premiere. That's the editing software we use. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, everything gets blasted out on Daily Blast Live.
Yeah, I love that. You like that? You like what you're doing?
I like it because it's exciting and it's live, and I don't have homework usually. So everything you do that day is done that day.
So,
like you're
so
working
the Donald
on
Trump,
deadline.
the Donald Trump arraignment would be your topic if that was going on today.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that's
So it's daily news. It's basically everything that's happening today. We brought it up, and then tomorrow is a whole new day.
pretty cool. Hey, so let me think about this. Influential people in your life. Who's impacted you on this path that made a big difference? I've written an article about it called The Tap on the Shoulder. Who's tapped you on the shoulder?
Well, I think a lot of my teachers in high school that allowed me to play, or it allowed me to be myself. You know, yourself included. We mentioned Brother Richard. I had a English teacher in high school who was very influential and wanted me to go into journalism. He was kind of that guy to nudge me and say, so Mr. Savitsky, definitely.
I know him.
Then, what's that?
I know him. Yes.
Yeah. So he was my English teacher in grade 12, and he actually developed a journalism program that year. And so I was in it with Julie,
Awesome.
my friend from ZB. But so he was definitely very influential. And then I had I'll never forget her, the woman, the news director for CBC, Helen Henderson, who saw me at the Y and said, hey, you should come work for us.
See, that's amazing,
That
right?
set me off.
But that
on
only
the whole
happens.
path
That only happens because you're out there doing good work and you're putting your best self forward, no matter how, potentially menial the job may be to you at that moment, right? You're
Yes.
giving it everything. I love that. It's a great message there for students and for people.
She immediately saw the script that I wrote, and she went, "Oh, you get this. You get the tone. You get what we're trying to do here." She saw me you're going to be okay. And I've never forgotten that.
That's awesome.
And that led me to where I am today, I would honestly say.
All right. So what would you tell a grade 11 kid right now? If you were sitting in front of them, what you've learned, your journey, which is crazy. This is a crazy journey, but a wonderful journey. It is about, when we talk about adventures in career land, you embody this. It has been an adventure.
Yeah.
So what would you tell a grade 11 kid?
I mean, there's really no wrong decision you're going to make. And even if you do think you made the wrong decision, that's only going to lead you to the right decision. And it will lead you to where you are meant to be. And I mean that. I know that sounds cliche and it maybe sounds kind of vague, but I am telling you, I stressed out so much over making the right decision. And you just make a decision, whether it was going to Thailand and leaving my career behind, being in Thailand too long and being told that you're going to be irrelevant when you come back to Canada. None of that happened. And and also I would say, just always be a good employee.
Yeah.
Like, don't ever burn bridges, no matter how bad you feel you're being treated, or don't ever burn a bridge, because the media world in Canada is super small. And if somebody's being a bully to you at the workplace, you will eventually end up maybe being their boss one day. So I always just kept my nose down, did good work, always was like a good employee, always worked really hard. And just, like was always easy to work with. People always say that, like, you're easy to work with. You don't, create a lot of drama, and it served me well. So be a nice Canadian.
Be a nice Canadian. That's perfect. That's a good. Hey, I'm gonna throw this over to Caitlin. She's gonna give you something. We're gonna end this with quick cues. She's gonna ask you a bunch of questions, and she's gonna explain how this works. Caitlin, take this.
Okay, so quick cues are basically a bunch of rapid fire questions. You can just choose which one you prefer, and if you don't have an answer, you can just say skip and I'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Orange juice or apple juice?
Apple juice.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
Favorite social media?
Oh, I'm an old relic. I'm gonna have to say Facebook. Oh no, TikTok. I'm a TikTok girl now.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cow's milk or almond milk?
Oh, can I say oat milk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hot dog or burger?
Burger.
Starbucks or Tim Hortons?
Starbucks.
Shows or movies?
Shows.
Eat in or eat out?
Eat out.
Cake or pie?
Pie.
And the last question, what is your favorite podcast?
Oh, it has to be Adventures in Career
Woo!
Definitely.
Hey, you even got, of course, there's only one answer to that one. We even got Kate. Caden's kind of going, yeah. Like and remember, he's our Indiana Jones, so he's got that whip over here, and we have to be very careful to make sure we take care of Caden. Anyway, you know what, Karen? This was a lot of fun. So many insights. What a life you've led. And I was, again, it's serendipity of me to see you on television and go, oh my gosh, is that Karen Rocznik? I couldn't even remember your last name. Karen. And then I looked up and went, it's Karen Rocznik. So it was my great fortune to connect with you again, honestly. And we've kept in touch a little bit over LinkedIn and stuff. LinkedIn's a great program. My young minions. It's a great program to professionally just to connect with people. And the conversations are always civil, and there's nothing you'd be ashamed of putting on LinkedIn.
And
you know what I mean?
Can I just add a little plug for LinkedIn? I got my job in Denver because I LinkedIn the news director at 9 News in Denver because we had mutual friends.
How cool is that?
And that's how I got my job in Denver. So
and many of her jobs have been the result of people seeing her in action and connecting with others and
reaching out. Don't be afraid to reach out. Aim high.
I love it. So, more lessons. How many lessons do you have here? You should be.
I know. Just DM me.
Again, you should be writing some self-help book. I think.
Okay.
I think it would help everybody. You're going to write the foreword to mine. Okay, it's going to be forward by Karen Rocznik. Yeah, he was a moron. I have no idea why I'm writing this. And anyway, it was good. Karen, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
You're a gem, and now I'm hooked on the Daily Blast Live on Care 11 in Minnesota. But this is your show. I'm so impressed. I know your parents say it to you all the time, but as an old teacher, I'm so proud of you for doing this. This is for sharing your story here. But your path, nothing gets you down. You just move, you iterate, you change, and you take what you learned in the past and bring it to your next assignment. So cool. How exciting for you.
That's how you do it.
I think so. So hey, thanks a lot. What a pleasure to have you on. And thanks to my co-hosts who have been listening. They actually took notes during your thing. I'm moved. My heart is warm because of I've given them a notebook, but kids don't take notes anymore. But they are. They're taking notes. I'm so excited. And thanks to our producer. And to Mr. Curry, who came from a sick bed to make sure our tech was in shape this morning. So appreciate that. So Phoenix, who's working in the booth, thanks very much. She's been talking in my ear saying, you're going a little long. And I said, wow, sometimes when you got a great guest, you go a little long. Anyway, that's it. Everybody, and to our 10 or 11 listeners out there, we think this was a doozy. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again. Another edition of Adventures in Careerland.